Hi, I'm the Bluebrixx, and this is an absolute unit of a locomotive that I want to show to you. So grab a drink if you like, and take a seat by the fire and enjoy. This is the 106969 by Bluebrixx, the V100 Locomotive. And I think Bluebrixx asked themselves the question, how massive can a brick-built locomotive be? And the answer was yes. It is enormous. And I like that. It's really cool. It is unnecessarily large on any scale. It's actually a 2-scale model, 1:18 to the original. First of all, let's get the facts straight. It comes bad preparation. In this box. Typical Bluebrixx design features, the non-existing one. The sticker that tells you everything you need to know. The display locomotive V100 in dark red. Set number 106969, though it's a 1:18 scale modular, it's 5,475 pieces, and there's €190 list price. To get that in range, the 5,475 pieces and a €190 list price means we're talking about, let me look at my cheat sheet, we're looking at 3.47 cents per piece. I do think that this price per piece thing is at some points a little bit unfair. So I did the unthinkable and I weighed the set. I actually had to get myself a new scale because the one I used before that ran off the scales. To give you the numbers by my cheat sheet, the base part is 986 grams, so roughly 1 kilogram. The locomotive is 4.2 kilogram. This means altogether the entire set weighs 5,186 grams, or roughly 5.2 kilograms. Yet, that is not all, because you do get a couple of spare pieces. It's that many that I thought it's actually worth to weigh those as well, and we get 136 grams of spare pieces. And we're not just talking about like these tiny things. I'm already ripping off decoration again. I'll talk about that later. We're talking about like 2x4 tiles. We're talking about those 1x4 rail bricks that will build these tracks over here. We're talking about 1x8 ramp bricks. We're talking about these panels and all that stuff. So over 100 grams of spare pieces. That's a lot. This means altogether with these, we're talking about an overall mass you get for the €190. That is 5,320 grams. To put that into some sort of perspective, I calculated the price per gram. If you ignore this, that means we're talking about 3.66 cents per gram for the set itself. And with the spare parts included, we're talking about 3.57 cents per gram. So 3.6, 3.7. When we're talking about the mass of that, we also want to talk about the size, because as I said, this thing is an absolute unit and it is massive as hell. So the base is roughly 78 centimeters long, 78.5. The width of the base is 14.5 centimeters. And the height of the entire set when taking it to here is about 28 centimeters height. The locomotive is roughly the same width as the base. We're talking about a couple of millimeters. So if I measured 14 to 14.5 centimeters in width of the base, maybe calculate 14.5 for the locomotive. Let's get rid of this. Let's get rid of that. Another word for the spare pieces. In the Bluebrixx universe, if you need something like a screwdriver for your set, you're going to get the entire tool palette, and that every time you need that one screwdriver. Means you need 8 screwdrivers, you get 8 entire sets of tools. I actually ignored these for the weighing process. Decoration. You've seen me break off these, I have no idea how they're called, polars. While setting this up for the display here, I also broke off some other pieces for the wheel sets. This is, in fact, a display set. Means you also get these transparent bricks where the locomotive is actually meant to sit on that base. I purposely took those out to show you a couple of things. I actually added those onto the base when I weighed the set. And now throwing them away. That was a smart move. Yes, these belong to the wheel sets. These are amongst those the most fragile parts of the entire set, especially those polars. I'm just going to call them polars. I don't care if that's correct. Please correct me in the comments if you really know what these are called. That's this over there. Those fall off quite easily. As I said, these polars are the most fragile, and that is one of the few critique or points of critique that I've actually got, because this is one of the most exposed parts of the set, and it's the one that breaks off the easiest. Which is also annoying during building, because that's gonna happen like don't know how many 20 times. I think after half of my building, I just took them off and added them back on when I finished the entire build. So much for that. To get to the building steps and all that, this is a Bluebrixx special, but we do have a building step segmentation. You get an entirety of 9 building segments. The first one is for the base. 2 and 3 are for one of these wheel sets each. 4 is the base of the locomotive. And then 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9 are for the upper part of the locomotive. Let's try to show to you what I mean with this set. Let's start with the base. This thing is just as massive and solid as the rest of the locomotive. Let me show to you what I mean with that. I'm holding it just on the outer part. Just for reference, that is 1 kilogram of plastic. You see how much that's shaken because I can barely hold it up. Yet it does not bend a bit. There is a solid technic construction in the center of that. You start with plates. On top of those, you do the technic construction. Then you add another layer of plates. Then you add those brown imitations of the wood bars, of the wood pieces that are in there. And on top of that, the track construction. This is really solid. And we've got something that is kind of unique for Bluebrixx-Specials. We've got prints at the front of that. This is printed. There are no stickers on that set. Everything you see, apart from that, is built. Like this, the BB for Bluebrixx, is built out of bricks. Very simple. And there is a print. That's new, and I really like that. Special props to Bluebrixx for not adding sticker crap to a display set. Bonus points. Before I'm gonna get the base out of the way so we have more space to look at the actual locomotive, I do want to show something to you, because I did get rid of the transparent bricks that you usually are supposed to have in place to lift the locomotive off the base to make it look like it's standing on those tracks. But it can move on those specially designed tracks. And yes, that's the wheels that the locomotive is standing on, which kinda push on the inner part of those specially built tracks and make the locomotive be able to drive on those tracks. So if you'd continue to build this track, this locomotive could actually drive. Dear people in Denmark, please take a couple of notes for the next display set that you're building, because that's how it's done. If you build a special scale that does not fit onto your standard tracks, and you build a special set of tracks, make it so this locomotive can actually drive on those. The only thing that you could argue now is those wheels can't turn, so you can actually only drive in a straight line. Nonetheless, that was something I did not expect, especially not for that size. And now we'll get that out of the way, so we can actually talk about the locomotive. Let me show the locomotive. So much for that. I'll show you in a second what just dropped to the floor and probably shattered. I have not dared to look. That's the bottom. Try to take off these wheel sets, and yeah, the result is on the floor. Okay, I'll fix that later. I'll show you what. Let's just get to that. The piece that just flew off is the counterpart for that. This is, and that's the reason why it just flew off, just pushed in there. It's not fixed in place by anything. It's just pushed in there. So for safety reasons, we'll just take that off. Some of the parts of those set are absolutely not made for people with larger or thick fingers. I've actually gotten to the point where I've got myself a pair of tweezers and a small flathead screwdriver, mostly the cable parts and stuff like that, to have a chance to grab them with the tweezers and the flathead screwdriver to be able, especially in that engine compartment, to apply counter pressure to parts when you attach something towards them. Because it's quite often that you're supposed to attach something to a piece that is not solid enough to be able to sustain the pressure when you just push something onto that. So often enough you have to apply counter pressure to that, and quite some time it happens that this is at a point where you can't really get your fingers into that to be able to apply the counter pressure needed. The amount of details in that set is astonishing again. For people who are used to Bluebrixx-Specials, it's probably not that surprising. Yet it is, there are so many things crammed into that engine compartment. There are details built into positions where you'll never really get to see those. So it's only for the purpose of that being there, and for you to be able to acknowledge that and see the details while building the set, which is something I've seen for the Lighters of the Astronomer, Castle Blaustein, and quite a couple of others of those most remarkable Bluebrixx sets. So this is kind of their design philosophy, to put as many details into the set as humanly possible. I can't judge if any of those details in here are true to the original. While building the set, it always feels like the designer at least took an effort to get some knowledge of that locomotive before designing that set. So you can see there was an effort made to build something that is as close to the original as possible. Something we do have to talk about. Brick quality. The clamping forces, so the way everything sticks together, mostly totally fine, apart from maybe these. And some smaller things inside the engine compartment. I see something is loose in there. Nothing too bad, especially for a design set that is supposed to sit in a shelf and not be touched all the time. I think I've moved that set around like 5 or 6 times by now. So for that purpose, it's kind of okay that some pieces are starting to get loose, because that's not the purpose of that set. Talking about part quality, what you've seen there are scratches, and not tiny ones. Also, the corners of those Briggs are not in a good quality. Color and part quality, something that has to improve again, because on this one it's mediocre at best. And at some points that was disappointing. I've had one of those. I don't remember whether it was a 2x3 or a 2x4 tile, but it was one of those tiles. I think it's one that was actually built on the inside that had huge errors or faults on the bottom part of that. Looked a little bit like a freshly made piece somehow landed on a hot object that kind of melted into the bottom part of that piece. When talking about features, I mean, what do you want to talk about? You can open those doors everywhere. You can open this. We have the cabin in here. When talking about, maybe we can see it on this side. Talking about quality, have to put it in a way that you can actually maybe see it. Maybe you can see it. These windows, this one especially, is also filled with scratches. So much about the part quality. That one has to prove again, but yeah. Features. As you've seen earlier, that thing can drop to the floor and shatter to all the pieces it was assembled out of. Building techniques, something kind of found it funny that this was the building technique for the windows. Yeah, well, now I've broken it off anyway, so I can show it to you. First of all, that is the scratched window. And now that this is out of the way, we can have a look on the interior. That is very cool. You can clearly see that this is shunting locomotive that's meant to be driven into both directions. Back to the features, you can open that flap. You can open these doors. That is one of the small issues, that you can't really open the door without poaching around these. That's it. I don't think I'll really have to mention that there are no unnecessary colors in here. This set is not from Denmark, so the only colors that are in here are the ones that are actually needed for the set. That's it. So I think that was everything that is supposed to be said about this set. Just to show it from all directions again. This thing is amazing. It's large, it's unnecessary. So I think that means I've said everything that is to be said about that set. Means the only thing left to be said is bye, the Bluebrixx Pi.